Dear organizers and artists, it's a great honor to be invited to take part in such an exciting and historical occasion. I apologize for not being able to come, but I hope you will all feel I am there in spirit. It's been over 50 years ago that I first founded the Society for Art of Imagination, and we only were 3 people. But it has now grown to over 400 people from 23 countries, something we never expected. It all began by our discontent with the way art was going in the modern world. In some ways, photography had replaced painting, and artists were looking for a way to paint which the camera could not imitate. Also, artists influenced both by disaffection with a world at war and influenced by a growing interest in psychiatry, became inward-looking, exploring their inner worlds, and experience a growing alienation from society. This cult of the individual became supreme. Instead of the schools of art giving a rise to and helping developing new talent, the concept came in of every artist as a lone genius. Yet now, in the new millennium, there is a growing doubt as to whether this individualism has been carried too far. Has something been lost in this rush for absolute freedom? Nowadays, artists are seeking media attention by clever innovations, by found objects, by installing anything from dead animals to dirty furniture as exhibits. Perhaps now it is the artist as artist that is the real exhibit. The human ego, writ large, has replaced the former great aspirations of art. In the Victorian age, a more idealistic age, John Ruskin wrote, "What we want art to do for us is to keep what is fleeting, to enlighten what is incomprehensible, to incorporate the things that have no measure, and to immortalize the things that have no duration." But these aspirations have now gone. With the lack of a common aim, the sense of a brotherhood among professional artists has disappeared. Perhaps each artist is trying to find an individual answer to the question, what is art? At the very dawn of modernism, the wonderful Russian writer Leo Tolstoy wrote, "We must distinguish art from counterfeit art. A real work of art destroys the separation between the viewer and the artist, and even between the viewer and others who appreciate real art. But now, instead of art which feeds the spirit, an empty art is set up, which hides from us our need for real art. And true art for our time would demand the union of all people without exception. Above all, it sets brotherly love to all men." Many art schools are no longer teaching either drawing or the craft and technique of painting and sculpture. Talented young artists are driven to despair as they found no real instruction is given to them, and no respect is accorded to methods developed over time. If action is not taken, the skills that have taken centuries to evolve will in the due course disappear completely. Ernst Fuchs was the founder and teacher of the Vienna School of Fantastic Realism. After the war ended, Ernst Fuchs attended the Vienna Academy of Art and there discovered that techniques were no longer being taught. He journeyed to Paris and there began his research and experimentation, which resulted in his rediscovery of the secrets of the Renaissance, a way of painting with egg tempera and oil glazing, which made the paintings permanent and as well as giving the colors an extraordinary brightness. As one of the early pupils, I shared his concern for preserving the techniques of the past. And also in his work, I saw he was exploring that inner world, which I wanted to explore in myself. And through studying with him, I found the means of doing this inner exploration. Because, as Oscar Wilde said, I don't know what I mean until I hear what I say. And I found I didn't know what I meant until I saw what I'd painted. When I returned to England, I began to teach the technique of Ernst Fuchs. And then our group expanded into the Society for Art of Imagination. We realized that if artists helped and supported each other as a brotherhood of men spoken by Tolstoy, we had a chance to ignore the fashionable art and gently spread like grassroots, finding patrons who also felt and saw our hard work and our sincerity and the qualities of the spirit which we shared. And so it has proved. It is a great joy to be part of such a wonderful exhibition where we from other countries can join hands with the great Russian people. We're having Russian weather in your honor, and a bear is something that's found in Russia, but the next animal is not found in Russia and is very surprised to be here in the snow, and it's a giraffe. Then we have a zebra, and finally a cat, based on the Mexican animal sculptures. And on the back of the book is the one that I'm wearing. You want to take a picture of it? This is the book, which is the first book I did describing the Misch technique, which is a technique of Ernst Fuchs. And this cover is also, I went to an exhibition and I wore this as a handbag. And this one is exploring the question of death, which is a very big one. And it's about, my mother was a very spiritual woman, very religious. So these churches here, and yet when I was painting it, I frightened myself because the doorway suddenly became very black and mysterious, and I realized it's a thing we don't know. We all have to walk the path toward death, and we don't know anything about it, absolutely nothing. So that's what that picture's about. It's a question. However religious you are, there's something you don't know, and that's death. We have a painting here in this room, which I did when my mother was very ill. And your mother is a very important figure, and so when she's dying, it's a terrible, it goes right back into your depth. And Jung says we all have an inner spirit. For example, a man has an anima, or a woman's inside, and a woman has a male animus. And so this is my inside part being very frightened because my mother may be going away, may be dying. And that's what that picture is about. That's my son, and he was handicapped. He was epileptic and autistic, and eventually he died at 21. But I had to go to Austria to teach, and I took a photo of him when he was only 2, and I painted his life, which had been like a sort of barbed wire, always full of suffering, and then the thought that he had gone to a better place. On a lighter note, one of the things one can do as an artist to further your reputation is to wear your art. You see, if you here's a painting, and then I made a jacket with the painting which reproduces the painting.